So it has been tight race. Palki, the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has led his party's return to power in his home state of Gujarat. But it is nowhere near the landslide that Bharatiya Janata Party had predicted.
In fact, if anything, the Congress, led by the party's newly appointed President Rahul Gandhi, has put up a fight. Here's a report.
The biggest election of the year in India did spring somewhat of a surprise. The winner has won, but the loser hasn't lost. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party may have retained Gujarat for a sixth successive term. But there is no denying that the challenge from Rahul Gandhi's Congress party is for real. Narendra Modi left no stone unturned in campaigning across the state. More like a top BJP leader than the Prime Minister of India. At stake, he said, was the Gujarati pride, but also his prestige. Gujarat is Modi's home state after all, a state he had ruled for 12 years before taking the reins of the country.
मैं सबसे पहले गुजरात और हिमाचल की जनता को शत शत नमन करता हूं कि उन्होंने विकास के रास्ते को चुना, विकास के मार्ग से ही जन सामान्य की समस्याओं का समाधान होगा.
Modi implicitly asked the voters to forgive the BJP all the ills of the last year, whether it was rural distress or urban desolation as a result of demonetization and the goods and services tax. The voters seem to have listened to him, but they have also given him a warning not to take them for granted. The BJP had set a target of 150 seats in Gujarat. The reality is that BJP's tally has come down from 2012, while the Congress tally has gone up. Indeed, when counting began, the contest appeared to be heading for a photo finish.
Sensex has crashed by 800 points, but before that, let me go across to Sharmishta Mukherjee. She's been very patiently waiting for us from the Congress headquarters. Sharmishta, a very close fight. Did Congress expect it? Though it's widely fluctuating between 88 to 74. Some are saying it's 80, 84 and 80. But the fight has become close, Sharmishta.
Well, if you believe in the saying that morning shows the day, you know, we are going to win hands up in Congress, in Gujarat. And this is clearly an indication of positive politics.
But pretty soon, BJP workers who were worried in the morning as the party ran neck and neck with the Congress started filling the party offices, breaking out into celebrations. The day belonged to the Prime Minister. Unlike other state elections, there was no wave in favour of the BJP. In fact, a lot of the voters were sitting on the fence. An equally aggressive campaign run by Rahul Gandhi and Hardik Patel, the leader of the Patidar Patels, appeared to be charming voters. Under these difficult circumstances, Narendra Modi still delivered the state to the BJP.
मित्रों, ये विकास यात्रा हमारी अभी ठहरने नहीं वाली है. त्रिपुरा, मेघालय, मिजोरम और कर्नाटक में भी 2018 में भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकारें बनने जा रही हैं.
Modi managed to turn parts of a negative Congress campaign back against the opposition party. Manishankar Iyer's niche comment helped Modi garner sympathy among Gujarati voters. His claim of former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh meeting Pakistani officials to conspire against him just before the polls also played on the voters' mind. Both these factors appear to do the trick, even in the face of disenchantment over demonetization and the goods and services tax. The agitation by caste leaders, which should have dented BJP's support in North Gujarat, did not harm the ruling party. It was primarily in the rural areas of Saurashtra and Kutch where the farmer distress tripped up the BJP. The BJP is now in power in 19 of the 29 states in India. Never before has any political party controlled that many states in the country. In fact, it was 24 years ago when the Congress was the last political party in control of 18 states. For the Congress and its new boss Rahul Gandhi, the Gujarat election has been a turning point. In the face of a formidable challenge, Rahul Gandhi worked like a war horse. along with regional allies like Hardik Patel, Alpesh Thakur and Jignesh Mevani. Rahul Gandhi has shown the BJP that this is a new Congress and it will play the role of a spirited opposition.
एक बात तो साफ है, राहुल गांधी जी ने और कांग्रेस पार्टी ने मोदी जी और भाजपा को 99 के फेर में तो उलझा लिया है। 2017 में कांग्रेस की वोट 33.5% से बढ़कर 41.5% हो गई और भाजपा की वोट 60% से गिरकर 49% रह गई। भारतीय जनता पार्टी उन 165 में से 57 सीटें हार गई और हमने अपने 17 के अंदर 55 सीटें और जोड़ ली।
From voicing the concerns of the voters to arming himself with a new soft Hindutva approach, Rahul Gandhi has proved that he is capable of putting up a fight. The BJP won because Modi did all he could to appeal to Gujarati pride. The Congress did not lose because Rahul Gandhi did all he could and more to appeal to Gujarat's wisdom. Today's narrower victory may prompt Prime Minister Modi to resort to populist spending to boost support before he faces re-election in 2019. That risks widening India's already bloated budget deficit. The results may also embolden Rahul Gandhi. With as many as 8 state elections over the next year, all bets are most certainly on. Bureau Report, WION.
So finally BJP has come home, and on this issue I'm joined by Meenakshi Lekhi, Bharatiya Janata Party member of Lok Sabha from Delhi. Madam, thank you for joining us on WION. And let me begin this our session on WION with you by asking you, were this 2-digit victory being expected, or BJP expected little more, like more than 110, 115? Mrs. Lekhi.
See, I won't go into the statistics because one can expect whatever, but the fact is that we have won, and Congress, which was the ruling party in Himachal Pradesh, has lost it. So we won 2 states and Congress has been reduced in 1 more state. That's what you need to look at.
Okay, that's fair enough that you have won the constituency. But if you look at the finer details, you'll find, and this is one question which first caught my eye, was there's a complete urban and rural divide. In rural areas, Congress has swept constituencies, and more than 95% of the urban constituencies of Gujarat have been swept by Bharatiya Janata Party. Why has that happened, madam?
See, finer details will come in a day or two, because state-wise and the seat-wise analysis will happen when we get the numbers, we get the areas, we get the leadership, and what the issues really were. But even in the total, in rural, we are not less than Congress in any of the rural constituencies as well. They may have got a little edge, a couple of seats, 2-3 seats more or less, but we are there, and the kind of work which has been done for the farming sector is unthinkable. Nobody has ever done that work before.
Ms. Lekhi, both national parties, it seems, have jumped on the Hindutva bandwagon. Of course, Narendra Modi is seen as the quintessential Hindutva leader, but Rahul Gandhi also tried to play your game. So if both these parties are going to do this, who is standing up for secularism in Indian politics now?
We are Hindus, but we are secular because we do not play with the religion of others, and we do not question. But people who keep changing their religion from one to the other, depending on the state in which they are contesting elections, I think you need to ask these questions to those people. Who used to never visit temples suddenly started visiting temples, to the extent that they'll wear their Janeu over their coat and shirt, and didn't even know the basic rules of wearing a Janeu. Plus, when the person became the president of the party, that was such a big day, and the person didn't think it fit to go to a temple. So, as is, where is the kind of politics which suits people, and it doesn't suit us. You could be from any religion, whatever you think you believe in, and you should be true to that. Entering your name into different registers and not discrediting which is right and which is wrong shows the kind of politics you are playing, and which is very divisive.
Would you say that this marks a tectonic shift in Indian politics, or was this just a cosmetics gesture on the part of the Congress president, and now it will be life as usual for him?
See, this is Congress DNA, Congress's character, and way back, long time, a hardcore Hindutva leader like Savarkar would have said that they will start using Jineu if it mattered to them, and they could win elections with that. And from on the lighter side, Achhe Din, some Sadbuddhi has come, and people have started recognizing that no appeasement politics. Hindus also have a right to exist and follow their religion in this country, which is fantastic.
Mrs. Lee, how do you see the Prime Minister's speech, which he gave at the party headquarters, where he stressed upon the fact that, the time has come to set aside the issues of caste. Do you think that he made an overture toward the Patidar community that, okay, elections are over, we'll look into the issues? Do you see it as an overture, madam?
No. You see, it's not an overture. He has worked for all the communities, and he has worked for the country and the state irrespective of the communities, and that's what you need to look at. Look at the numbers. Look at the fact that when he got into power and became the chief minister, what was the enrollment rate in the state of Gujarat? And today the enrollment rate in Gujarat for schools is about 99%. And dropout rate is reduced only to 3%, where it used to be 33% and above that. Look at the water level. Water level in a dry state, 22 feet of water level, which has been heightened in state of Gujarat. So a lot of work on the environmental front also has been done. Sabarmati was a dry river bank, is a flowing river today. So many ponds and lakes have been rejuvenated. Drip irrigation has increased agriculture threefold. Soil health card to everything else, Narmada, water. Saurashtra didn't have water to the extent that people didn't have bath for many days because there was shortage of water. Not a single village in Gujarat is without electricity today. So what are they talking? It's the kind of work which has been done in Gujarat, and the maximum employment in the country, a state which is providing to rest of the states is Gujarat.
Right. Meenakshi Lekhi, thanks very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us. Appreciate it on a day like this. Santosh Desai, the BBC has summed up this election result in these words. Modi magic still works, but there are green shoots of a Congress revival. The BJP was vulnerable, and 2019 will be exciting.
Yes, that I think is a fair summary of what I think has happened today. I think the BJP, has Mr. Modi to thank for this victory. It's a narrow victory. It's a very modest kind of a win, and in Gujarat, which is really their home sort of base, I don't think it is something that would give them too much joy. They've squeaked through, and they've squeaked through, by in large measure due to Mr. Modi's personal charisma and his personal connection with the voters, which he really had to work hard also to try and sort of connect and make sure that they get through this time. So I do think that is true. I also do think that the Congress has some advantages. I think the primary advantage for the Congress is the fact that Rahul Gandhi has regained some of the credibility that he had lost completely. He had become a punchline about a year ago, and now he's being viewed enough for the BJP to sort of attack very vigorously. And I think that's a sign of his being taken seriously. I think the Congress still has a long way to go, even in Gujarat, because a lot of their senior leaders have lost. Their alliances have helped them, but going forward, I think this is just the start for them to. They should not. I don't think it would be unwise for them to overread, this result. But it's certainly, compared to where they were, a few months ago, it's certainly green shoots is I think is right.
Right. We also have with us Satoru Nagao, visiting fellow at the Hudson Institute, and Nikita Sood, associate professor of international development at the University of Oxford. Good evening to both of you. Nikita, let's begin with you. will this result mark the return to economic populism? Because Surat may have given overwhelming win to the Prime Minister and his party, but a business-friendly state like Gujarat saw the BJP's numbers considerably reduced.
Well, Gujarat is already, has a very high fiscal deficit. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India has pointed that out in their reports again and again. So already we have a rather populist Gujarat model of development. And clearly the BJP has got a shock today. Their core constituencies like traders in Surat, like you're saying, may have come good in the end, but there were massive demonstrations in the lead up to the election, and that is telling them something. The same with farmers, the same with the health workers, the ASHA workers who were protesting. And if the BJP has to, go further from here and not continue with the decline that has begun today in its voting percentage, in the number of seats compared to the 2012 election, then yes, possibly they will go populist and possibly they will combine that with Hindutva, which they have been doing in Gujarat. So it won't be such a cut from the past, but it might accelerate this particular Gujarat model of development.
Satura Naga, what according to you is this Gujarat model? A lot has been said about it. And is that model still paying dividends to the BJP, or is it the Prime Minister's personal charisma and popularity? What is it that swung it in favor of his party?
Okay, to explain this, I need to explain my background. I'm the visiting fellow of Carter Institute from this month because of the Japanese government question. So my view is came from Japan, not the United States. And secondly, I need to say I'm the defense and security expert, but India, but not the expert direction. So could you listen to my opinion of this background? And based on this background, I need to say why government or Japanese people have a good positive view towards the Modi government.
I'm going to ask my team to fix the link there. I can't really make sense of what you're saying. The audio is poor. But let me take this question to you. Is this the Gujarat model? What is it that's paying dividends?
Well, I think this is, as we heard, for a lot of data about the kind of deficit that Gujarat has got.
What is a Gujarat model?
And that is indeed the Gujarat model. And if that is the one, then, frankly, that is not necessarily a development model which is sustainable. You really need to be able to push forward some really harsh and drastic reforms, which is really going to hit at many key constituencies that we're seeing. And you can see in Gujarat, there was a little bit of a wavering, and we've been talking a little bit about, 29 elections in a row being lost. I think this may well be the turning point.
But Mr. Sidhu, if you look at the reforms done, and a lot of eminent economists have said that he resembles, he's similar to Indira Gandhi. He's far more statist. He's using far more state resources for economic and social programs. The sort of reforms which were witnessed under Dr. Manmohan Singh were of a different category and leagued together. But the sort of administrative and economic initiatives he has taken, they're all through the state mechanism. It's not the dismantling of the state which Narendra Modi has done. In fact, he's just trying to utilize it. Tell me, Arun.
No, I think, it's one is that these are two different eras, and one thing is very clear that Narendra Modi has been able to send a message across, whether some of the reforms are successful or not successful, that he is making a sincere effort. So he has been able to enhance the trust quotient, which Jasper was also talking about in the morning. That's it. So he has come across as a politician who is not corrupt, which is a rarity in India. Absolutely. And then also he is trying to do something good for the country. But then
where is the real reform?
I think that's the key. In Indian politics, perception matters more than
the reforms.
That's a very interesting point, Palki. So if let's look at it this way: take Greater China as your yardstick, right? Now, admittedly, here we have neither the tools nor the system to do what they've done in the last 20 years. And some people may bemoan that, some people may celebrate that. But here, one GST implementation, early stage, one demonetisation action, slightly shoot from the hip stuff, does not make a summer. Right? So what will be interesting now is, once the dust has settled on this, is do they actually go full throttle on reforms, or, as has been mentioned by the UK commentator, do they decide to flip to a certain amount of populism? And I think that'll tell us where their appetite really
demonetization, everyone was taken by surprise. When did you hear of demonetization, Mr. Tahir?
On the night.
On the night.
On the night.
And what was your first reaction?
My first reaction was shock. I mean, that, what was going on? Is this true? But after that, I felt that it brought two things to me. One was that this person, the Prime Minister, means business, and therefore by 12 o'clock tonight, there's going to be a big change in how things and what notes are going to be used, which told me he was very serious about it. Brings me to Arun's point, is that the intent in this case, after a lackluster UPA, I think it is very important to understand that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given impetus and given momentum to the country in various ways, which is important. I mean, some of them may work to a large extent, some may not be that successful. We've always said it's work in progress. So I feel that is his forte, and his actual triumph is to initiate change.
Right, and I think that's the sentiment echoed by a lot of people, many of whom stood in long queues and said, at least he's trying to do something. We'll wait and see how this works.
Yes,
we are also looking at Gujarat in the world. Just a second, Mr. Sidhu. And my colleagues Taha Siddiqui from Islamabad and Saad Hamadi from Dhaka are standing by. Taha, who would have thought that Pakistan is going to figure in a state election in India, and yet it did. Any reactions from Islamabad on what this means for the Indian Prime Minister?
Well, definitely to the run-up, we heard a lot of comment coming out of Pakistan, but today was coming, the national media here covered the story much. The press has talked about it, but has picked higher news service and their sort of on it. And Urdu websites, on the other hand, Urdu newspapers have been talking about something that we can probably discussed at your end too, how BJP didn't win as big as it should have. One headline that was interesting in one of the newspapers was how Rahul Gandhi failed, Modi not passed with distinction. Referring to how the education system is in South Asia. So there has been somewhat of coverage. But again, the politics run up to the elections definitely did in the news and in the headlines there. But most research, I get too early at that. But perhaps tomorrow, most of the newspapers will be covering this, and later when the time bulletins happen, some of the bulletins will also be covering in Pakistan.
Okay. Stay with me, Taha. Let me go across to Saad. Saad, did it figure in the websites, or did it figure in the political narrative of Dhaka when the results came out? Gujarat elections.
I think I've talked to the politicians, I've talked to diplomats and business industrialists in Bangladesh, and those who can connect with Gujarat's election as well as the relations between India and Bangladesh. What they have shared is that it's a reaffirmation. BJP's victory in Gujarat is a reaffirmation to its stronghold in the center, and also the run-up to the election in 2019. And that will also mean that the relationship between Bangladesh and India will remain as strong as it was already. So that is what I've gathered as sentiments. Industry said that for cotton, for that matter, Bangladesh heavily relies on India. 46% of cotton exported from Gujarat last year. And it will continue to increase. And they expect that the government will make more efforts to ensure the shipment and all the other efforts that is required to ensure those developments. But that is the sentiment that they have.
Okay. Go ahead, Palki.
Nikita Sood, how does the world see this election for the Indian Prime Minister and for his stature domestically?
The way elections in many parts of the world, they are the popularity of the leader, and Mr. Modi has, especially phase of this election, made it about himself, him the victim of, certain unfortunate comments by members of the Congress party, of dynastic politics, etc. So this was very much an election that was personalized, and the world has been looking at it as a test for Mr. Modi. So if you, look at the headlines in various papers, on the BBC or various publications in the UK, but that creating of a personalized, centralized election also means that if the party fumbles, which it seems to have in these results, where for the first time, it has gone to 2 digits, to 99 from 127 and, thereabouts, it is also seen as a personal failing. So, of course, the party will seek to show this as a victory in Gujarat, but I think there is a note of caution in the international media and observers that, here is a rather centralized form of politics, and that is not, it is not as invincible as it is being made out to be. That, there are chinks in the armor, and perhaps the Congress, for the first time, is beginning to, see some light through those chinks.
But, you're talking about the chinks in the armor, but the fact of the matter is, yes, there is a perception of the world community, but then the party which is in power represents the aspiration, and I don't use the word, madam, majority from the identity perspective, majority of the communities in India. That's why he's in power. After Rajiv Gandhi, he's the only person who has got a simple majority.
Are you talking about Gujarat? Because
I'm talking about Bharatiya Janata Party.
Okay, so let me go back to the election in Gujarat. I think, the figure of 150 that we heard is not just picked out of a hat. The reason the BJP was aiming for 150 assembly seats is because till date, the highest number of legislative assembly seats that any party has got in Gujarat is the Congress in 1985. And after that, that party's decline began and the BJP has been on the up. So, you saw a steady rise of the BJP even preceding Mr. Modi. So, in the Keshubhai Patel era and, throughout the 1990s. And Mr. Modi inherited a certain party structure, which many people contributed to, from Shankar Singh Waghela to Keshubhai Patel and various others. And he has increased the momentum and brought us in Gujarat to, the kinds of victories they had in 2007 and 2012. So from that...
I need to interrupt you for a minute. I'm really sorry I'm interrupting you. I really need to interrupt you for a minute. I'll come back to you. Be patient and stay with me. We are also joined by Siddharth Nath Singh, Minister in the UP government. Thank you for joining us at WION. My first question to you, Mr. Singh, is this victory really sweet or slightly bittersweet?
Well, I want any victory is a sweet victory. And certainly after 22 years of anti-incumbency and you form, even with a simple majority, is a sweet victory. At the end of the day, it's the BJP government which is being formed. And on the other side is a Himachal, where we have got 2/3 majority and we have won handsomely in Himachal Pradesh. And both the elections, whether it's Himachal Pradesh and Gujarat, we have formed a government and we add to our kitty. From 12 we go to 14, and the NDA government, that's the 19th NDA government of the state. So it is a morale booster, it gives an impetus, it shows that the task that is ahead of us is of development, and the narrative that Mr. Modi has given is certainly the narrative of development and nothing else. So I think it will be unfair to say that any victory can be a bittersweet. It is a sweet victory.
Here's a look at the challenges outlined for the BJP in the run-up to this election. Two lackluster chief ministers following Narendra Modi, who then went on to become the Prime Minister. Anti-incumbency, rural discontent, revolt by the Patels, the effects of demonetization and GST implementation, making business difficult. The BJP was vulnerable, would you concede? And what would the BJP do in the upcoming elections to ensure that a Gujarat-like situation is not repeated?
Well, I don't think so. You see, the Gujarat was every election is a different challenge. So in Gujarat, if we are talking about the GST, people had spoken that it's the most affected, and certainly it's a manufacturing state. So people all spoke about it, and the political opponents made that into an issue. And some, Rahul Gandhi even went ahead and said Gabbar Singh tax. But look at those cities, Surat, which was most affected, or was being spoken about being the most affected. Look at Rajkot, look at Ahmedabad, that's where we have swept. So GST was never an issue. The reason it was never an issue because GST is a reform which is going to be in the interest of the country. And everybody understood there were personal difficulties, but at the same time the government was being sensitive in rectifying things which certainly was going to help those individuals or corporate or firms who were being affected. So they saw through the intention of the government. So, and that same thing happened with the demonetization. So there has been a vote for development. This election has been a vote against those who have spoken against development or tried to mock a good reform by calling it Gabbar Singh tax. And at the same time, also those who have fallen low in their vocabulary while campaigning. For example, Manishankar Ayyar, the Congress Manishankar Ayyar, trying to play with the words, calling Prime Minister Neech and etc. So I think overall the BJP has stuck to the development. Then certainly it is also an election where somebody who never went to temples but thought that that's the best way to win the election, so went ahead and said, okay, this time the bhakti is going to become my shakti. But at the end of the day, it doesn't work that way. It is how you are, that is how the people are going to accept, not by changing or putting up an act just during the elections.
Mr. Singh, before you joined us, we were debating whether this election and this result in a business state like Gujarat is going to push the government towards economic populism again. And yet the Prime Minister in his victory speech spoke of reform, perform and transform. Should the people of India then expect more bitter pills from the government at the centre, or will it be easy going up till 2019?
Let me give an example which was during the election. The populist way of looking at it is the reservation side. The Patidar issue was made by Congress, and Congress got three of their leaders who were taking this Patel reservation issue. Now, we came up during the election by nobody but the finance minister and the president of the party, and we were upfront. We said Constitution doesn't allow you to cross 50%, and we were absolutely straight. So we didn't get into the populism. We said let the people of Gujarat know that this is something which will not be possible because the Constitution doesn't allow. So I think these two wins are definitely going to give us a boost, impetus for going ahead with the reforms which certainly the country requires. And we feel the entire political narrative of this country has changed from 2014 towards development. And UP was another classic example where we won 325 seats. Demonetization was made into a big issue, but look at the handsomely we won despite demonetization being an issue.
Ask this question. I've been asking this, and I'll be very frank and honest. I've asked this to a lot of spokesperson and previous guests who had come on the show. So why is this difference in seat patterns? BJP is sweeping all the urban seats in Gujarat, but they are losing most of the rural seats to the Congress party. Why is this happening?
Well, let me put to say that, no, I'll tell, well, there was an issue, but particularly when you look at Saurashtra area, that is where the reservation was more of an issue. And that's where the farmers, if you put there out of 54 seats, more than 70% are the issues, the seats which goes into the rural belt. But I would say from here is that we in a party, in BJP and particularly with the leadership of Amit Shah ji and Prime Minister Modi, we accept certain messages which comes out in democracy. If there is an issue, obviously we need to identify. It may not be the right day today to be done, but because we'll be jumping the gun. But certainly there seems to be an issue. We will definitely address that issue. And because in democracy you do learn, and you don't, and it will be a bad day when you are in denial, because then you're going to fail an uphill task. So we'll correct it, because certainly the votes in the rural Gujarat has not come to us, but in urban Gujarat, because we felt that the way the opposition and the media were playing the GST and demonetization reforms, we thought that should be a bad day for us. But certainly the people have voted, and we stuck on to the GST and demonetization and other reforms. But certainly, yes, there is a message for us for rural Gujarat. We will address that.
Do you want to ask a question, Mr. Sidhu?
I could on this. Just in terms of, the urban-rural divide that we've heard about, Minister, it's quite clear that, one of the areas that the government has not been able to move as much is on agricultural reforms, as you very rightly said. Along with that, there's very much an understanding that the economy needs at least 1 million jobs a month, about roughly 12 million a year. And it's impossible to see how those jobs are going to be generated except within the sort of agricultural sector. And that's one area where everybody seems to be giving up, including this government.
Well, I do take your point that agriculture is an important sector for all of us and for the BJP throughout the country. And therefore, the Prime Minister has put the goal of doubling the farmers' income. And we are all working towards it. Since I am from Uttar Pradesh, I know in particular the amount of hard work that we are putting and how the policy changes and reforms which we are introducing in the agriculture sector. So I'm sure the Gujarat will not be left behind. But it all takes a while, time to make a dent or increase the employment or increase the GDP in the agriculture sector, is because the farmer do depend on certain things. Particularly, it's on the water, that's the irrigation. Other is the 24/7 electricity. And then the third is apart from the road, is the mandis, the e-market that you have to provide them. I think Gujarat has moved ahead from many states, particularly in their electricity front and on the mandi front. Water has been an issue. We all know Gujarat has been a dry area, and that's something which Congress had all the time in UP had opposed the Narmada water to be brought. Yeah, the Narmada water has been brought up to Kutch. Yes, it needs to be taken down from the canal down to the farmers. This could be the next coming 5 years would be the time when the water will go to the farmers or to the field. It will change the look of the farmers. But we are also looking at many other forms of reforms, particularly for doubling the farmers' income, from making land holding substantial, not too small. So all those things needs reforms in the revenue sector and the revenue department. So all those things are being looked at by BJP in various states in consultation with Niti Aayog.
Thank you, Mr. Siddharth Nath from joining us from Lucknow on this issue. But yes, I agree with you. Agriculture is one area when it comes to the economy which needs attention, because the unlocking of land had to take place. And as I was speaking to Palki, the unlocking of land could not take place because when the industry started supporting Narendra Modi, Rahul Gandhi in Congress immediately created a binary of 1970s, which is the politics of Kisan, Dalit, the people who are dispossessed. And in that binary came that suit boot kajai which the Prime Minister had to get at auction. Since then, what was his core concern? The unlocking of land, which is most important for industrialization, has not taken place. And this is one reason why, Palki, it's still pending with the Parliamentary Standing Committee for more than 1.5 years.
Right. Here's another interesting take, and I want to bring this up as we've seen what this means for Rahul Gandhi. We've seen what this means for Narendra Modi, how the world sees it. What does it mean for the larger opposition in India? Not just the Congress party, but others who at one point in time sought to come under the Congress umbrella and now have, it's a fractured opposition. The winning of 2 states is not a setback for the BJP. The loss of 2 states is not really a comeback for the Congress party, and yet many say there's a new opening in the Indian political scenario, and Rahul Gandhi offers some hope to the beleaguered larger opposition. Is that a fair assessment of how things stand?
I think, we'll have to wait and watch how Rahul Gandhi carries himself forward over the next few days. Because in Gujarat...
Days or years?
In days, I think probably, or say a few weeks. So it would become clear, and even in the current parliament session, you'll have to see how much of the floor coordination happens between the rest of the opposition. So, you'll get the indication from that floor coordination that whether they are planning to forge a united front together or not. But there is a problem also, whether they will accept Rahul Gandhi as because now we are entering 2018, which is election year, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, they'll have to make it very clear because BJP's prime ministerial candidate is clear that it's going to be Narendra Modi. So, well in time, can they forge an alliance and then declare Rahul Gandhi as the prime ministerial candidate? That is the only way.
Palki, when she used the word, you used it or he used it, the word green shoot, this is for the first time I have realized that, there's a word in Hindi called Har ke bhi jeet gaya. This is something which is happening for Rahul Gandhi. He has lost the election, but there are a lot of people saying that they are green shoots. One of our guests from abroad also said, one has to see the potential.
People are generally charitable. They don't want to be
beating
up a guy who's already lost his state.
So the point is Rahul Gandhi 2 things. Is he the glue within the organization, and can he be the glue to the larger opposition, which Sonia did when she was building an alliance against Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2003 after Simla Adivation?
Allow me to say this, but the way the speech which he made after he took over as the Congress president, it was very pedestal. It's very clear that it was pedestal. He was thinking in English and translating in Hindi. Even if you look at that is his fundamental problem. He is not.
Do you agree, Mr. Tahir?
He doesn't think
in
the Indian way.
I wouldn't go as far. I mean, I don't know what he thinks, and to be very honest, but I mean, there is always a smattering of there's kind of a disconnect when he does speak in Hindi. I must admit that. But I wouldn't go as far as saying that he is still in a position to consolidate and present himself as an opposition leader.
Right.
However, when you come to the green shoot thing, I said it all along today that I mean, if anything, it is a slimmer of a kind of a light there that possibly, if they can consolidate, perhaps we can then, in a democracy which is needed, perhaps see in time to come a good and strong opposition which is welcomed.
I have to go to Taha Siddiqui. I'm told he's waiting for us in Islamabad. Taha, I hope we can hear you clearly this time. We saw a lot of mention of Pakistan in a very bitterly fought election here in India. And this is also a time when we're looking at how Narendra Modi stands vis-a-vis other leaders in democracies in the region and in the world in general. Pakistan is going through a very, very tumultuous phase in its politics. Nawaz Sharif has been ousted. You're looking at an election next year. Compare that to an increasingly stronger Prime Minister in India. How does Islamabad and Rawalpindi, more importantly, see this?
Well, I mean, if you asked about the general narrative when it comes to Prime Minister Modi in Pakistan, he's considered to be, somewhat of a friend of Nawaz Sharif. And we did see that when he visited here on an unannounced trip for his birthday, for Nawaz Sharif's birthday. And that just shows how He wanted to develop a relationship. And then Nawaz Sharif also wanted to reciprocate, has mentioned friendly relations with India. But as you mentioned yourself, he is now a former prime minister, no more the prime minister. And many people say one of the reasons why Nawaz Sharif could not last in office and had a problem with the military establishment was because of his peace overtures towards India, which the Pakistani military establishment does not want. So then there is this narrative, but then there is another narrative which talks about how, because the Pakistani mainstream media, whenever it talks about India, it tries to paint BJP with a certain color of how they the activities are involved, the whole Hindutva debate, which makes it here in the news, and the extremism debate, which is basically something that again is the narrative making and building in Pakistan. So BJP is viewed in a very different way. Congress was viewed in a very different way, and that is why, as I was earlier mentioning, that some of the articles in the Urdu press are sort of, emphasizing more on Rahul Gandhi's failure, which is in a way, as Karthike was mentioning, looking at it as a success rather, than just, talking about Modi's sort of firm stronghold over India.
Taha, there was an initial excitement when it came to Narendra Modi in Pakistan, but that's in the realm of foreign affairs. But in context of Bharatiya Janata Party or in context of Narendra Modi, do the commonly inherited stereotypes exist? What exists in India for the mainstream political parties, does it exist for us where you sit? Is it mutual?
Well, if you look at the way to run up to these elections in Gujarat, the way there were these back and forth statements, and that, we even covered that particular person who was from, Pakistan, whose comments or something to do with Facebook that became a story, or before the back and forth statements that came from both sides with regards to the interference in elections, all of that, Pakistan, if you talk to foreign policy experts here, if you talk to political experts here, they'll tell you that India does not sort of feature in Pakistani elections. It features in the realms of the Pakistani military establishment, and they're because it's their domain, they decide the policy, so the politicians do not even talk about it. And when politicians do talk about it, like Nawaz Sharif did, and as I was mentioning earlier, they usually go against the narrative that the military is trying to build, and foreign policy is their domain, so they usually lose in asserting themselves. So that it comes down to, in relations with India, the narrative with India comes down to the civil-military sort of imbalances we see in Pakistan, and the military's relevance in regional sort of conflicts that it wants to keep its dominance over.
I think I kind of agree with you. Jasper, it's like whenever you go across to Taha, the journalistic dilemma is, how do you explore the issues between two nations who stare at each other in a way the best described word is enemies, and there's a stated position. Now the elections in Gujarat, and he was giving us examples of the references in Urdu press. From your perspective, from an outsider, what makes the middle ground so difficult between us and Pakistan, so difficult, even when we talk about things like mundane things like Gujarat elections?
So I was in Islamabad, Rawalpindi, quite recently, and 6 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I think the answer to the question is a simple one: politicians and politics get in the way. As far as I could gather, as a layman on the ground for a week, there's a huge amount in common, particularly in the kind of urban middle classes, and I have to say, a huge amount of interest, which you'll be well aware of, on both sides as to what's going on. I think a combination of, forgive me, the media and politicians probably contributes largely to driving a wedge between the two.
You know who you sound like? Donald Trump. Blame the media.
That's the first.
Let's focus on these graphics playing on our screens. Comparing Narendra Modi to other democratically elected leaders. Angela Merkel, high possibility of another election after she's not been able to stitch a coalition together in Germany. The elections were held in September. She's one of the tallest leaders of Europe. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, facing corruption charges at home, embattled, but at the same time pushing his international agenda. So, of course, the Indian Prime Minister in comparison stands very, very tall and strong with the BJP, his party, ruling in 19 states under his leadership. Nawaz Sharif, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, has been ousted after the Panama Papers case blew into a full-blown controversy. Disqualified from office, is not going to be able to contest the upcoming election. His party is fledgling. And as Taha said, they were at one point in time seen as friends. The Indian Prime Minister has capitalized and sort of consolidated his position. Nawaz Sharif is on his way out, or already out, in Pakistan politics. And of course, we started with Donald Trump, the president of the US, who is fighting with the Senate, fighting with the Congress, doesn't get along with his own team. So a lot of issues there, and Theresa May, as we pointed out earlier, the Prime Minister of Britain, who is dealing with a lot of issues post-Brexit.